our guest is the founding president, Professor Dr. Elizabeth Davis Russell. She's now live on the line from California in the USA. Doc, it's a pleasure having you on your radio, Phoenix FM.
Oh, thank you. It is the university's radio. Thank you very much, Rashford, for having me.
And of course, we want to say happy birthday.
Thank you. This is my 80th, and I am indeed grateful that I've lived to be 80 years old.
Okay, and we're going to come to the birthday part later on, but let's drill through what we have on our plate here. Your time at TU, and what led you to take on a rather daunting task? Many people may be listening, and I'm sure there are many students who don't know you. Maybe they've heard about you, they've seen your pictures around, but firstly, what led you to take on this task?
Well, Rashford, as you know, I was born and raised in Cape Palmas, and have a very deep affection for the place. So as I reflected on my life at that point, I realized that I had spent my career in the States in higher education and had contributed to American institutions. And here was an opportunity for me to go back and give back and help to develop what was my first love in terms of a place of residence where I was born, and help to see if I could make a difference.
Yes, help make a difference. Okay, now, Doc, you stayed here and you had a saying, a popular saying whenever there was a meeting or something of the sort. You would usually say, we are flying the plane and building it at the same time.
Yes, I did. I won't say that I created that, but I think it aptly described what we were doing. We did not have the luxury to complete a university and then invite students to come in. Seeing a great need, as you know, there were students who graduated from high school who could not or would not go to Monrovia for college. And so those people, many of them were in their 30s by that point, and it was necessary for us to bring the institution back as quickly as we can. So for those people who were with us in the beginning, they would realize that we worked on one building for instructional purposes. Fortunately, it was a very large building with several wings, and so we were able to do that. But as we went along, we had to create infrastructure, both human and physical, and so that was building it, putting the pieces in place as we went along. And we had students who were, I think, overjoyed and grateful for that, because finally they were able to begin their educational experiences in higher ed.
Okay, and Doc, are you satisfied with your level of achievement, say from the start or the restart of TC?
Oh, I don't know that I will ever be satisfied. You there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. When I think about it, Rushford, I think if I were 20 years younger and could have stayed longer, there were some things that I really wanted to achieve. As you know, well, I would state categorically that even institutions in the United States, state government institutions, cannot fully support the university, the colleges and universities. And so those institutions have to bring in funding to help achieve their goals. And there are a couple of ways they do that. One is through tuition and fees, and the other is through fundraising. Now, we know that many of the students of Liberia that we started with could not afford the tuition and fees because there were 15% when we started who could pay their tuition and fees, and the other 85% needed some kind of scholarship. So part of our time was spent raising those scholarships, and another, and looking for funding sources elsewhere. So one of the things that I had envisioned was an enterprise that would bring in funds to the university and be able to sustain the university. So we started the farm, and my dream was to have both the farms in Barbo and in Kavala operational so that they would serve a number of purposes. One would be, yes, to provide produce that would not only feed students, faculty, and staff, but would contribute to solving the food insecurity issue in the county, particularly in the upper area. The other enterprise was to be the Gari processing area, to be able to use the cassava that was planted there to make Gari, package those, and sell them. And I often talked with the dean then, who was the dean of the School of Agriculture, about processing things like banana chips and plantain chips and whatnot, and selling those, marketing. Because every time I went to a meeting, I got potato chips that were imported. And I thought, given all the produce we have that grow in Liberia, bananas, plantains, pineapples, etc., we could produce those and bring in income to the university. Then also rubber, but also oil palm. So the fact, and at one point again, we were pursuing a gas station, because as you know, getting gas in Hopper, people would stop and buy bottles of gas. And we wanted to do a gas station. So those kinds of things that we had begun, but I wasn't able to see full blown, is one of the regrets that I have.
Okay. Now, Doc, minus the huge recurring challenges, where would you have expected to see the university at this time? I mean, after you left, and yes, you didn't achieve some of what you just talked about, but leaving it at where you left, what would you expect to see at this time in TU?
Well, Rashra, what we did was to develop, when Dr. Isaac was Vice President for Administration, and what we sat down as a president's cabinet with all the other vice presidents, and we developed a 10-year plan for the university in terms of growth and expansion, etc. I would have expected at some point that, had I been there, that plan by now would have been achieved, and the university would be looking to develop a second 10-year plan. I'm not there, so I cannot speak to what has or has not been done. But given what we have put in place, was another famous saying of mine that maybe you didn't hear, but my cabinet members heard all the time. Was I what I call hit by the bus? And what I would say is, today or tomorrow, if I were hit by a bus, I would want the university to continue without a stop. That would happen because we had put in place the infrastructure, the policies and procedures. And so we developed not only the handbook, but long range plans that, architectural plans looking at the energy situation, etc. All of those. Those are plans that we left there for our successors to be able to use as blueprints to move the university forward.
Okay, ma'am. Let's look at your major challenge during your stay at Tubman University. What was your major challenge, or maybe challenges? What were they?
Well, I think there were a couple. The foremost being funding. It takes each year when we looked at what it would take to move us forward, we talked about $10 million, and and I used to joke. I said my budget in the States when I was provost and vice president for academic affairs was 45 million, and here I was trying to get the government to give me 10 million, and was unsuccessful because each year we got no more than $5 million when we required 10. So trying to make up the balance, as I said, through fundraising and other activities, that was a major challenge. I think the other challenge, and this falls in line with my profession as a clinical psychologist, is changing behaviors and attitudes. And I used to say to folks when they said to me, "But doc, that's how we've always done it." And my response would be, "How is that working?" Just because you've always done it that way doesn't mean that there isn't a more effective, more efficient way of doing things. So getting people to shift, so getting a paradigm shift in institutional building and whatnot was a major challenge. But I think we made great strides in that area.
Okay, and I was just about to ask how far you got with that. But let's move over to help for the university, especially through the TU Foundation Board. You were, during your tenure, you were very much instrumental. You had an officer for that in person of Barbara Simmons. And so at this time, even though you're not president anymore and you're not in Liberia, what about the TU Foundation Board and help for the university?
Well, let me just give you a background how the foundation started. When I was leaving the States, when I made the decision to go to Liberia, friends and colleagues of mine just wrote me congratulatory notes, but also said, "How can we help? We may not be able to go to Liberia, but is there anything we can do?" And I said, yes, one of the things that you can do is establish a foundation board. And the foundation then is an incorporated nonprofit body within the United States, within whichever state is incorporated, to provide, to raise funds. It's not like the board of directors or the board of trustees. So our sole focus, the sole focus of the foundation, is to try and raise funds to help students. The foundation board did that. Alex Cooper was the person who was liaison to the board, and he worked with the board, and the board sent money for scholarships, etc., for students. Um, since my return to the States, I worked with the board. I became a member of the board. I currently chair the board. And we had planned a big fundraiser, and then COVID hit, and so we could not do that. We tried to get in the States, when you have a university foundation board, it is critical that the president of the university, who is the face of the university, works very closely with the foundation board in being able to tell the university's story. So I'm not president of the university at this point. So what we expect as we move forward, as we try to again conduct fundraising events, we ask the university, what are your priorities, so that we can direct our attention to those. At the time, the president articulated a number of priorities. One was technology.
Doc, excuse me, Doc, which president? You're talking about Dr. Elliott Willer Wilson?
Yes.
Okay.
And he identified a number of priorities. Technology was one. So a member of the board who's president of a university where technology is part of what they do was her staff was trying to establish relationships with the technology staff at TU. But it seems they ran into problems because the folks were changing and they didn't know to whom they should direct their attention. So we placed that on hold and said, once things are stabilized, then let us know who the folks are with whom the technology folks here can interface and help to make the difference. The other area we identified was faculty development. And Dr. James Elliott, who is a member of the board, also from Maryland County, heads that area and will be working to look at what faculty needs are so that we can pair up people who are able to help produce whatever the faculty is able to use in terms of developing its skills, etc. And the third area is, and this is one that I push because when I looked at the report that Dr. Ray Wilson has submitted at that time, I saw a drastic decrease in the number of female students. And I was curious as to why that was happening. And so we established an ad hoc committee chaired by Dr. Seth Azuma, who had visited us in Liberia at the university, to look at that issue. And we've been developing funds to support female students. Our last commitment is to select 4 female students, to see them through from their first year to their last year. So those are the 3 areas to recap: technology,
faculty development,
field scholarships, and faculty development.
Now, Doc, we have an interim president. Has he reached out to you or vice versa?
He's reached out to me. I met him not in his role as acting president, but when Dr. Wonkeyon was coming on, the board had its face-to-face meeting, and that was Dr. Wonkeyon introductory meeting with us. And we went that Sunday to worship, and this young man came up and introduced himself and said he was on his way to Liberia, I think at that point, to head up a foundation or something like that. So, but when he became acting president, I sent him a letter of congratulations on behalf of the board and told him about the foundation, and he responded promptly saying that he wanted to meet with us when he can. So we're having our foundation first face-to-face meeting since COVID started in October, and we've issued a letter of invitation to him. So we hope that he can come and give us an in-person report of what's happening and ways in which we can be helpful.
Now, Doc, Tubman University is gearing up for a graduate school. What do you make of that at this time?
Well, I can't speak to the current conditions, Rochford. I know we had talked about that when I was president, and we said we wanted to proceed cautiously because we wanted the undergraduate program solidified. And my focus at the time was increasing the number of Liberians who had their terminal degrees. And so, as you know, we developed the Grow Our Own program so that more Liberians could come with doctorates. Because when you think about a graduate program, you have to have PhD, doctoral level people teaching that, teaching those courses. You can't have master's level people teaching master's level programs. So if that's what is being planned, then that's fine. But as I said, I can't speak to that because I don't know the condition.
Hello? Doc? Hello? Hello, Doc? Yeah, you went kind of low. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so let's move to the next question, and this will be the final one on the main TU issue. Do you wield any influence in the current national government to maybe bring its feet to the fire in terms of support for the institution? Because just as you rightly said, getting support from the central government was a major challenge during your regime here, and trust me, it's still an even more major problem. But do you wield any kind of influence in this current administration? You used to have a rather rosy relationship with the former president of Liberia, Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf.
Well, no, the answer to your question, Rashtra, is no, I don't wield any influence whatsoever. I doubt that I wielded influence in the government when I was there.
Come on, Doc. Madam Sirleaf used to see eye to eye with you. You had a good relationship with her.
Oh, we had a very good working relationship. I will attest to that. I think for several reasons. Well, let me say, I did not know her. The first time I met her was when she asked me if I would come, because I had gone with a mission from the States to assess the conditions of higher ed and to make recommendations to them. That was the first time I met her, and that's when she asked me if I would come back to help. But I think one of the reasons for the good working relationship is that she was interested in seeing higher education move because she knew the importance of that. And two, that she shared my vision of creating an excellent institution that would be second to none in the region, but in the nation, in the region. And so those two goals, I think, solidified her support for us. And she said, in any way that I can be supportive, she want to do that. She would want to do that. So, but I've never been a politician and never aspired to have been one. I think I would say that the power to hold people to the feet to the fire reside with the residents of the county. That people, and this is what we always try to convey to the students, that don't let the politicians take your vote for granted. Ask them what they're going to do for the county. Ask them what they're going to do for the institution. Also look at their record about what they've done. What have they demonstrated? So this notion that people come around at the end bringing bag of rice and oil to sway your votes, I think is not something that that people should be better citizens and use their votes that way.
Okay, Doc. Today is your birthday. Today is TU's Charter Day, and also Phoenix's official day of commissioning. What would you have been doing at this time if you were in Liberia at TU?
Well, I think what I would have done is get us all to celebrate where we are, looking back at how far we've come, and looking to the future to make us even better than we are. Because again, one of my own philosophies is that learning is lifelong. And so we never should sit on our laurels thinking that what we have accomplished is good enough, that we should keep striving to be better and to learn from whatever mistakes we may have made and move forward to change things, to make institutions better. I am so glad, Rashford, that you have continued with the radio station, and I think you've branched into TV. Is that correct?
Yes, a little online TV, but we still have some major challenges as usual with support and all that.
I think it was one of the best decisions that you and I made, that when you wanted to move from where you were to the radio station, that has proven to be an excellent fit for you. So I must commend you on the work that you've done. I periodically, Mrs. Brown Cooper from Marylanders for Progress will send me your videos of interviews or news, etc. So I have kept up with the work that you've been doing, and I commend you for that.
We commend you as well, Doc. Now, what do you miss most about Hopper and TU?
I miss the people. I miss the people. there are times when I wish I were back there with the people. I love, I love the challenge of making things happen, growing institutions is growing programs, growing projects. Those are what keeps me vital. And folks said, my husband jokes, he said, you work just as hard now as when you were working for a salary. And I say yes, because there are a number of things that I'm involved with at this point that keep me going. But it's who I am and what I do. And so as long as I am alive and have the strength and fortitude, I will continue to do that. And so, yes, I miss all of you.
And especially Coffee Break, who used to give you a hard time. Okay, but Doug, when would you plan on visiting? Maybe to pop in and greet the folks here and have a word with the students. When do you plan on visiting? Here?
Rushford?
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, Doc.
Yes, I can hear you.
I was asking about any possible plans for a visit to come maybe speak to the students for a couple of days or meet with the administration and staff.
Oh, I don't have any immediate plans, but who knows? If I get an invitation to come and speak, perhaps that might be a possibility at some point in the future.
And maybe lecture for at least a semester.
Oh, why? I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't go as far as a semester, Rochford.
Okay, so Doug, any other thing you want to add before we drop this line?
Well, I want to say hello to all the students that I know and those that I don't know. The faculty, I noticed that Francis Fuka now is chair of the Faculty Senate. So my greetings to all of them. And that I certainly wish that folks remember the principles on which the institution was founded, the guiding principles. We talk about the kind of institution we were, a caring institution, an institution built on intellectual curiosity, etc., etc. So I hope that those principles are still deeply embedded in the culture of the institution. And that regardless of who becomes president, that those founding principles become the bedrock and remain the bedrock of the institution.
Doc, it's been a pleasure having you as our guest on the Night Talk, and happy birthday.
Thank you, Rashford, for thinking about me, and give my love to all.
Okay. Folks, you just listened to the founding president of Tubman University, Professor Dr. Elizabeth Davis Russell. And she was on the line from the USA. Today's her birthday, as well as the Charter Day of Tubman University, and, of course, the official day of commissioning of Radio Phoenix.